It's a miracle. Indiana does it. They save the season with a win over Michigan State.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Indiana, they do it. They go on the road. We take down Michigan State and a top 15 team in their house. We beat Michigan State 71-67. We saved the season. We'll tell you why in just a little bit. We're going to break down this game. Plus, Mike Woodson gave his first real comments about leaving this team, and some of his players made some comments as well. We'll have that later on for you in the show. Reminder, this is a free daily podcast to you talking all things Indiana athletics. The only one that talks all things Indiana Hoosiers Monday through Friday, free to you. So thank you so much for being here and making this your go-to spot for Indiana Hoosiers content. Indiana, we did it. I can't believe it. I gave us zero chance. You saw it on the episode yesterday. We did a crossover with Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans, and I had no confidence. I said, yeah, ain't no way Indiana goes on the road and beats Michigan State and does it by 71-67. I had no confidence, right? I didn't have confidence in our defense to stop Michigan State. Not that they're the greatest offensive team in the world. I think we saw that, but I just didn't have confidence in us. Plus, given everything that's going on, given how this weekend went, you're on the road, a place we, believe it or not, actually have a couple of wins. Not at Michigan State. We haven't won there forever. But in this season, you do have a couple of wins on the road, but just not typically the environment that we thrive in. 14,000 plus. You had Tom Izzo ready to break the all-time Big Ten wins record to beat Bob Knight. I mean, everything was pointing in the direction for Indiana to lose. And not just lose, but really in blowout fashion, because how much care does this team really have left? That's why I said, yeah, there's no way that Indiana wins this game. And through the first 10 minutes, that's kind of what it looked like, right? It's like, oh gosh, here we go again, down by double digits, not a whole lot of effort. They're making shots. Our defense is weak. We can't get anything going offensively. And then all of a sudden, it changed. Our energy changed. Our mindset changed. Listen to this. Our strategy changed. Did we have an epiphany in the middle of this game? Did we do this crazy thing of making adjustments? We did. We made adjustments in the middle of a game, in the middle of a half, and it worked. We threw this crazy thing at Michigan State called zone defense, and they had no idea what to do. Not that they've never played against it. They just were not ready for it. And look, Indiana doesn't play a whole lot of zone. You know that. It's pretty rare for us to throw something like that at them. But against a team like Michigan State, and we should have thought about this, and I'm glad that the coaching staff did. Think about Michigan State. Statistically, they're the worst three-point shooting team in the Big Ten. And if you play a zone, right, what you're doing is you're forcing them to spread out, but you're making it harder to get inside the lane. You're making it harder to get any sort of action inside the three-point line. So Indiana was moving extremely well with the basketball. That's how the zone works. And Michigan State couldn't get inside. And you were forcing them to take tough twos and take threes, which they're terrible at. And last night proved that case. They were horrific from behind the arc last night. And it worked for Indiana. Why that has not worked in the past is because against better shooting teams, right? If you're not moving properly, if you're not moving with some pace with your zone defense, you create open shots, right? If they move the ball and you're not communicating and you get left behind, it can lead to open threes. And we've played enough teams this year that are good enough to knock them down. Not Michigan State, and that worked to perfection. Indiana was down double digits. We come back. We had a 32-29 lead at the half, and at this point, you're thinking, well, we've done our job. We'll see how the second half goes. If we win, great. If not, well, we tried hard, right? And Indiana did another crazy thing where they closed out a game. They commanded the second half of this game thanks to two guys, Oumar Ballo and Malik Reneau. Both of them walked into East Lansing last night and they came out with double doubles. They came in and dominated this game. Indiana dictated the pace of play. Indiana dictated the strategy of this game, the style of this game, and Indiana flat out won this basketball game, 71-67. And again, I think the season may have just been saved. And we'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. But this was the best game I think we've seen this year from Ballo and Reneau together, right? This is what we wanted. That was the 1-2 punch down low that we were wanting to see all season long. Oumar Ballo finishes with 14 points, 10 rebounds. He was in foul trouble all night long, so he didn't even get to play as much as we would have liked him to. And then Malik Reneau came off the bench, by the way. Did you notice that? Trey Galloway gets the start over Malik Reneau, right? You started an extra, or you get Trey Galloway over Miles Rice, I should say. Luke Goody gets the start over Malik Reneau. More on that in a little bit. And you also had Malik off the bench, 19 points, 12 rebounds in 29 minutes. Off the bench for Malik Reneau. He was dominant. He was aggressive. He was looking to score. And get this, stayed out of foul trouble. Had just 3. While Ballo was fighting it, Reneau was taking advantage of it. And this was what we were wanting from the top transfer portal player this past season in Oumar Ballo and your returning big man in Malik Reneau. We thought this is what it could be. And it just hasn't been for most of the year. But Michigan State had no answers. You got their bigs in foul trouble. I think their bigs are a little soft, to be honest with you. And Indiana went back to that watering hole time and time and time again. And it was good to see. Indiana found their advantages. They hammered those advantages, and they just kind of held Michigan State out, right? They just kind of held their arm out like a big brother to the little brother with his hand on the forehead. And hey, you can't touch me. You can't get me. Michigan State did everything they could to get back in this game and try to win this game, but Indiana held them off 71-67 in a win that you desperately needed. Top 15 team on the road in Big Ten play. Indiana has that signature win now. You finally got it. Your net ranking went up by 5. You're now in the 50s, which is starting to flirt, right? You're starting to flirt with the NCAA tournament. We went from 61 to 56 thanks to this win, where you now sit at 3-10 in quad 1 games. I'll tell you why that's important and why this game, this win, might have just saved the season. More on that coming up next right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me kind of get back into that routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start this year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I've been looking for a TV stand, and because just moved places and been looking for a TV stand that kind of fits my space, fits my room. And Wayfair, I mean, when I say they have thousands of them, they have thousands. And I finally found the one that fits perfectly for me. The free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items, is what makes me want to go back and buy more using Wayfair. Wayfair's site is so easy to navigate, and I found everything I need in no time. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, your daily spot for all things Indiana athletics. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers who come back Monday through Friday. You're enjoying a free podcast to you. Whether you listen on your audio platforms or you watch this thing on YouTube, it's free every day, you'll never pay for it. Never have, never will. And that's what's great about the Locked On Podcast Network. For everybody that is tuned in, though, if you could help me out a little bit, would really appreciate that. My audio listeners, I need you to follow the podcast if you can. Have those notifications turned on so you never miss extra episodes, bonus episodes, or just the daily episodes of Locked On Hoosiers. So be sure you have those notifications turned on. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video. It's the first thing. Just hit that little thumbs up. Helps us out, okay? Also, I need to see your thoughts. I want to see what you have to say about Indiana beating Michigan State 71-67. Leave your comments in the YouTube, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments. I'll be going through and reading some of those later today. Are you excited? Is the season saved? Let me know down there in the comments. And then if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are pushing towards 4,700 subscribers. I think we can get there by the weekend. I really do. So if you could help us out with that, that would be fantastic and very much appreciated to hit that subscribe button here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. All right, so Indiana goes on the road in a game that we were 11.5-point underdogs, double-digit underdogs in a midweek road game against a top 15 squad, a team that just fell out of the top 10. And most people didn't give us any chance, myself included. Go watch the episode yesterday with Matt Sheehan, crossover with Locked On Spartans. I had no confidence, none. And he was very confident, as he should have been. But we go on the road. And I talked about yesterday, and I've been talking about how, yes, you were losers of 5 straight. Yeah, the last time you won was against Ohio State in the first week of January. It hadn't been going well here. But the season wasn't over yet. You could turn it around with a win like this against Michigan State. And that's exactly what we did. 71-67 Hoosiers win. Just to run you through some of the numbers really quickly before I tell you why and how I think the season was saved. Told you that Malik Reneau had probably his best game of the year with 19, just aggressive with the basketball, looking to score, and his passion down the stretch was something that really stood out to me. More on him and his comments on Mike Woodson coming up in just a little bit. Also, Oumar Ballo, talked about him, 14 points, 10 rebounds. Luke Goody made some shots down the stretch. I thought Miles Rice stepped up coming off the bench, right, getting replaced. I thought he made some shots down the stretch. And a night where Mackenzie Mbako was off. Anthony Leal was off. You didn't get a whole lot from them, but you didn't need a whole lot from them because you know where it started? It started on the defensive end of the floor when you were down double digits, right? In an area where we normally panic. We normally just get flustered. We normally just start trying to rush and take bad shots and get it all back in one possession. We didn't do that. We started on the defensive end, that zone defense through Michigan State for a whirlwind. And then we hammered our advantages on the offensive end of the floor. And ultimately, we climb back. We have a lead at the half, and we never give it up in that last 20 minutes on our way to a 71-67 win. I think the season may have been saved here. If you can build on this, if you're Indiana and you take this game and you build on this, right? The teams you're going to be playing coming up are not all going to be like Michigan State. They're not all going to be bad three-point shooting teams. They're not all going to be soft down low. And you're not going to be able to win many games 71-67 in the Big Ten. Not this year, not right now. But you did it here in East Lansing. And that's a good start. And I think the season is still alive. And Mike Woodson talked about it, more on that in a second. He talked about how he wants this team to get to the NCAA tournament. He wants them to make the Big Ten tournament. He wants them to win some games and make a run. And you see that this team is talented enough to do that when they just play well, when they play together, when they play for 40 minutes, and when their head coach helps them out. They can win games. We are a good team. Man, we were a preseason top 25. We had the best transfer portal class in the country. That isn't just those numbers weren't wrong. They weren't incorrect. Indiana just hasn't played up to their standard, but they did last night against Michigan State. And so now we're 15-10 overall. We're 6-8 in conference play. We're still in the middle of the pack, flirting with being in the bottom third of this conference right now. But 6-8, Oregon 6-8. You look ahead of us as well. Ohio State, USC, Nebraska, all 6-7. This is as of this recording episode coming out Wednesday morning. And then there's a really big jump up to Illinois. But you are flirting with the teams below you. Rutgers at 5-8, Iowa 4-8, and Minnesota 4-9. Good news is for Indiana, you still have opportunities. You have opportunities for two things. Wins in general. Not going to say easy or gimme wins. That doesn't exist in this conference. But you have chances at wins. And you also have chances at quad one wins. Look at the rest of this schedule with me, okay? Friday night, UCLA comes to Assembly Hall. Do you know where UCLA stands right now in the conference standings? They're 9-5. They're the 5th ranked team in the standings. I guess not ranked, but they're the 5th team in the Big Ten standings right now. They're not ranked in the top 25, but they're the 5th team in the standings. You want to talk about how big of an opportunity that is? That's on your home floor. You look at where UCLA currently sits in the net rankings. They're ranked 25th. Yeah, that's a quad one game on your home floor. And you have that Friday night coming off a big win, a chance to build on some momentum. After that, you take that UCLA game. You then take 9 days off. You don't have a midweek next week. You don't play through the weekend. You don't play the midweek. You don't play until the 23rd. That's the following Sunday. So you play this Friday, and then you don't play till the following Sunday afternoon when Purdue comes to town. Now, they're currently a top 10 team. We'll see if that remains, depending on how they fare between now and then. But easily a quad one game and an opportunity to get back at Purdue for the heartbreaker that you had at their place just a few weeks ago. So there's 2 back-to-back opportunities to build on your resume. Then you've got a chance to get a nice win against Penn State. Not that it's a resume builder. They're the worst team in the Big Ten. You just have to get the win. Then you go and you take on Washington in Washington. Again, not a good team. They're the 2nd worst team in the Big Ten standings-wise, but you got to get that win. Then you play 2 all-important games. You go to Oregon as part of that West Coast trip, who's right there with you in the Big Ten standings, and then you come home for Ohio State. And Ohio State's a weird team, man. They're a really weird team because they're ahead of you right now in terms of the Big Ten standings. They're also way ahead of you in terms of the net rankings, because right now Ohio State's ranked 28th in the net rankings. That Oregon team is ranked 34th. So that game being on the road, absolutely a quad one game. Ohio State, as of right now, is a quad one game. So you have 4 remaining on your schedule. Yeah, you're 3-10 in the quad one. That's not good. But the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament committee doesn't care about how many losses you have in quad one games. Crazy enough, they don't care. They just want to see that you've beaten some teams. They just want to see that you have the ability to do it. You've shown that in 3 games so far, and you have 4 more on the schedule. Imagine this, Hoosiers fans. Imagine you win out. You win out. You then become 7-10 in quad one games. So you have really made that record look competitive. And if you win out, how many games is that? That's 2, 4, 6 games. And you're 6-8, you'd be 12-8 in the Big Ten with big time wins over number 11 Michigan State, number 7 Purdue, a couple of more quad one wins in there as well. Then go win a few games in the Big Ten tournament, and we're really starting to talk about a team that can make the NCAA tournament. I believe it can happen. If you play the way you did last night and you execute the way you did last night, then yeah, you can absolutely make the NCAA tournament. But what we can't do is fall flat on our face this Friday against UCLA. You can't come up short against Purdue. You can't take bad losses against Penn State and Washington. But I don't think we do. I think we find a way. I think they're starting to rally around this idea that, look, Mike Woodson's on his way out. They're rallying it around him, not the fact that he's leaving, I think. And again, comments on that in just a second. And I think you should. I mean, why not? If you're Indiana, why not? And I look to who wears number 5 on this team. I look to Malik Reneau, man. That's what we've been looking for. That's the energy, the love, the passion that we've been looking for. He showed it on display on the road last night, and he single-handedly, thanks to the help of Oumar Ballo, carried Indiana to a win inside East Lansing, 71-67. And the season was absolutely saved for this Indiana squad. All right, coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, been flirting with it a little bit. There are comments now from Mike Woodson following the game against Michigan State, talking about his departure for the first time. And some of his players mentioned it as well, including Malik Reneau. We'll talk about that in our final segment right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really do appreciate you. And post-game, after Indiana beats Michigan State 71-67, Mike Woodson gave us his first real comments, his first real thoughts on leaving the Indiana basketball program at the end of the year. And these quotes were from his post-game press conference. He says, well, it's tough. They know that I won't be back. Goes on to say that that's been tough on these guys. It's tough on me, but we still got a lot of season left, and I just want these guys to believe. He goes on to say, this is the part about the NCAA tournament I was mentioning. He says, quote, I want them to go into the NCAA tournament and experience it and get in the Big Ten tournament and see if you can win it. He says that's what it's all about. It's not just about getting there. You want to get there and try to win a Big Ten tournament and then see where that leads you. I just got to keep on pushing them, keep them positive, keep them up. And, you know, it's got to be hard, right? It's got to be. And we've had this similar conversation a few times here on the show, my everydayers, you know this, where it was hard for players, right? We had the conversation of how it had to be difficult for these players to play, knowing their coach could not or may not be coming back next year before the news was official, right? We talked about, man, it's got to be tough to play for a coach that there's all sorts of rumors flying around and the fan base wants him gone and there's conversations happening. Like, that had to be difficult. And then the news broke, right? Then it came out. It's like, oh, no, so he's actually not coming back next year. Then the conversation of, well, that's got to be difficult, right? It's got to be hard to play for a coach who you legitimately know is not coming back next year. And on the flip side, how hard is it if you're Mike Woodson to coach a team and do your job knowing that you're done and could be done within the next 4 or 5 weeks? Has to be hard. But it seems like they've put that kind of on the back burner. They've put those feelings behind them and they're focusing on what's important, which is winning basketball games. And sounds like Mike Woodson is all in until the very end. And you got to respect that. I do. I absolutely do. And I hope that you do as well as an Indiana fan, where you say, you know, I respect that. Good for you, Woody. And you could see that. Could you not? Could you not see that last night on the sideline? I mean, he was getting into it, man. He had that clipboard going. He was sweating. He was all up in it. He wasn't just sitting on the bench, just watching and just kind of, whatever. I mean, I'm leaving anyway. Doesn't really matter. That's not the way he took it, man. And that would be so easy to do. That'd be so easy to do. But he's not doing that. Woody's going to coach to the very end. And whether we like him or not as a coach, he still loves Indiana. And he still loves his players. And I think the players still love Indiana, and they still love him. Malik Reneau had an interesting comment last night, too. He says, quote, everybody knows what the situation is now. So we're just going to come together and try and play as hard as we can every time we step on the court, no matter if we're home or away. So that's what we're trying to do. And as crappy as it is, and again, I'll say it. I'm not worried to say it. Maybe this is what it took to kind of kick this team's ass in gear, right? I mean, maybe this is what it took for them to be like this was the wake-up call that Indiana needed as a team for the players. It was like, oh, it's like that kid in school or at home that just keeps acting up with no real repercussions, and they think everything's fine. They think being a brat is fine. They think they're getting away with it until something happens because of their actions, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't be acting this way. Maybe something is wrong. It's that aha moment. It's that wake-up call. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with this Indiana squad. And sure, you fell short Saturday, but you got it done in this game, and you have a chance to get it done again this Friday, and you have a chance to get it done the rest of the way. And if they play the way they did with the effort, with the execution, man, they're going to win out. They can win out. They can make a run in the Big Ten tournament, and they can make it to the NCAA tournament. And at that point, you just never know. That thing's so wonky, you never know what's going to happen there. So I hate that this is what it came to, right? I hate that it is the fact that a guy is stepping away, losing his job, and change is coming for a team to say, maybe we're not doing what we need to do. Maybe we're not playing the way we're supposed to be playing. Maybe we're not working as hard as we could be working. And maybe that's changed. And hopefully it's not too little too late. Hopefully a win over Michigan State does save your season and you're able to get wins down the stretch and send Mike Woodson out on a high note, whether that be a Big Ten tournament run, an NCAA tournament run, or just winning some games down the stretch in the regular season. Whatever the case may be, you've got a chance now because you beat Michigan State, a top 15 team who's really, really good, and you did it in your old school Indiana way. 71-67, save the season, and we move on to what comes Friday for this Indiana team. It's crazy. We're halfway through February, and the games are now limited, and you've got to continue to win. And beating Michigan State on the road on a Tuesday night, man, that's a great start for Mike Woodson in this Indiana squad. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me. I hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're having as much fun as I am. For those of you on audio, all right, be sure if you're on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, doesn't matter. However you listen to us, be sure that you have your notifications turned on. Leave us those 5-star reviews and follow us on there if you can. For YouTube, my YouTube watchers, like this video. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. I know you've got them. I want to see them. I'll be reading those a little bit later. And then be sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It takes one click. You become an everydayer. You become a part of this community, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode or we go live. All right? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. Could we still get more updates on a coaching search, even if the team wins? More on that coming up tomorrow right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.